Okay, so in order, to keep time, we want to honor our time here. I know you guys have taken time out of your busy day to join us. So welcome to the mindset of a high performer. If you notice, I said welcome and not good morning or good afternoon, because I know that some of you guys are calling in from the West Coast, so I know it's morning there. And some of you guys are international, so I know it's evening in some parts of the world. So we're just happy to have you here. And we're looking forward to sharing with you today. Just so you know, we got the webinar idea from a poll we did on the Purpose Center Leadership page. When we polled and asked what topics were of greatest interest to you, we polled, we asked if it was team development, leadership development, or high performance. And I just threw the high performance in just to throw it in. But it actually came back as the most popular topic. So we thought, that's perhaps where the need is. So we're glad to put this on for you guys today. So who are we? For those of you who have been following us, my name is Sharon Gill, and I'm here with my partner in life and business for over 34 years, Wayne, who will be co-presenting with me today. And we help entrepreneurs take their ideas from concept to market, utilizing a 360-degree approach of life coaching, business coaching, strategies, and spiritual awareness coaching, because we believe that you bring your whole self to work, right? You bring your whole self to your organization, to your business. So if your life is out of order, if your spiritual life is out of order, then your business life will be out of order. So we also work with organizations to deliver leadership training for their established and emerging leaders. Well, you want to just say a quick hi here before I move on?
Hey, just glad to be here. Looking forward to the training today.
All right. So what we're going to talk about today is, the mindset of a high performer. And so before we can talk about the habits that a high performer should have, we want to talk about the limiting beliefs that's stopping individuals from becoming a high performer. So let me ask some questions. Do you find yourself doing any of these things? And I'm going to launch a poll in a second. But do you find yourself doing procrastinating? Okay. What's procrastinating? Procrastinating is, do you find yourself putting off for tomorrow, next month, next year, what you can be doing today? Kicking the can down the road, so to speak. Do you find yourself procrastinating a lot on your projects, on launching a program, launching a course, launching a business, whatever, do you find yourself kicking the can down the road? Do you find yourself unwilling or afraid to ask for a promotion? If for those of you, I know there's some of you here from the corporate space. So do you find yourself unwilling or afraid to ask for a promotion, knowing full well that you are qualified to do so, right? You are qualified for the position, whether it's the C-suite, the VP suite, management suite, whatever. You're fully qualified, but you find yourself afraid or unwilling to ask for that promotion. Do you find yourself unwilling or afraid to charge full price? This is for the consultants in the room and the coaches, where you're stuck at one price and you've seen your competition who a lot are less qualified than you, brand new with less experience than you, and they're charging double and triple the price that you're charging, but you are unwilling or afraid to charge those full prices. Do you find yourself self-sabotaging? And what does this mean? It means that you may actually get the promotion, right? You may actually charge that full price, but you do everything in your power to tear down your own success. This is so common. Sometimes you're doing it consciously, but many times you're doing it unconsciously. So I'm going to launch a quick poll, right? To ask you, which of these habits do you think you identify with mostly? And listen, the poll is anonymous, so I won't know how you vote. So I'm going to give the poll 30 seconds for you guys to vote. All right, let's see. Seems like procrastination is winning. So.
Yeah, procrastination is
yeah.
Not procrastinating on this poll.
All right. Okay. So I think, okay, we have 16 votes. I'll give the other 4 who are reluctant. Remember, no one's going to see your vote. 17 of 20 have voted so far. Procrastinating is still winning. Okay, so I'm going to end the polling. For those of you who didn't vote, oh, all right, I'll give you guys a couple more seconds. 18, procrastinating is still winning. So I'm thinking that the one about promotion is not having any votes. So I'm thinking a lot of you guys are business owners or entrepreneurs. So, all right, I'm going to end the polling and I'm going to share the results with you guys. And as you can see, procrastination was 67%. Afraid to charge full price was 28, and self-sabotage was 22. Okay. All right. So this is what we, we're going to talk about, what's causing that, right? What is causing that in the polls? Why is that showing up in the polls? Okay. So on our next slide, if you answered yes to one or more of these questions, you may be having some limiting beliefs, right? So some of the triggers that we have seen, some of the bigger ones that we have seen in our coaching program is the dreaded imposter syndrome, right? The dreaded imposter syndrome is when you find yourself feeling like you're not qualified, right? You're not qualified for the promotion. You're not qualified to charge your full price. And that's probably why you're procrastinating. You're asking yourself the question, who am I? Who am I to charge this? Who am I to get that keynote speech? Who am I to start a business? Who am I? I don't feel like I'm qualified. And so you stop, right? So that's the imposter syndrome. And I will tell you that I have coached people who I looked up to, right? Who are influencers. And the imposter syndrome, I mean, as much as they've accomplished, they could have accomplished even more, but this imposter syndrome keeps them quite limited. So this is a really, really big one. The next one that's not as popular is what we call the guilt complex, right? And it's feeling bad about being successful when others in your circle are not as successful. And it wasn't as popular, but it became more popular coming out of 2020. And the reason is because there were people who actually had their best years in 2020, their best year in business. They launched business, they made money. But of course, we all see the news. We have over 500,000 people who died. We have millions more who lost their jobs. And so we're literally afraid to even talk about our success. And if we're not careful, we could, dumb ourselves down. And I'll talk a little bit more about dumbing yourselves down from there, further on. But the guilt complex is also another huge limiting belief. Performance anxiety, right? You feel anxious when it comes time to deliver. So you may pump yourself up to charge that bigger price for your program. You may pump yourself up to ask for that promotion. You may pump yourself up to launch that, that endeavor, right? But then when it comes time to deliver, you have performance anxiety. And this is kind of born out of, scripting, right? Scripts that you have playing in your head. Again, it's the imposter syndrome script. It's the I'm not good enough script, but you get performance anxiety. So you kind of keep stuck. And then another one is perfectionism. Perfectionism is you're waiting until perfect conditions, right? Perfect conditions, the perfect time, the perfect, age, the perfect, opportunity. And it's really an excuse not to act. It's really bound up in procrastination. It's an excuse not to act. But these things, these behaviors truly limit your performance and limit your, limit your success. So let's go to the next slide. So the question is, why do these limiting beliefs exist? Why do they exist? As I mentioned before, could it be a script you've learned and memorized? And again, we've been on this earth for a while. I'm in my late 50s and been involved with coaching and counseling for a long time. And I can tell you there are a lot of scripts. I mean, we all have scripts, right? But you know the ones that we remember the most? The bad ones, the negative ones. Somehow negativity really sticks. So here are some popular ones. You are not dash enough. So you can put in that dash, you're not good enough, educated enough, smart enough, pretty, handsome, qualified. You're just not enough. Whatever that adjective, whatever that adjective is, you're just not enough. And so let's take, for example, you're not educated enough. I've seen this one so much, right? So when you're not educated enough, so I don't think I'm smart enough. I need more. I need another degree. So I have a master's, but I need a PhD. Never enough. You become the eternal student, the eternal webinar attender, right? The eternal course purchaser, ever learning, but never executing because you're not enough. And if it's pretty or handsome, you keep doing things to make yourself look better, but you never quite attain what you're looking for because the overlaying script is you're just not enough, right? People pleasing, having the need for validation. People pleasing again, it stems from a script, right? That make everyone happy. I want to be loved. I want everyone to be happy around me. So what happens with this, when I see a lot, is if you are around folks who are maybe not as smart as you are, not as accomplished as you are, what you tend to do is to dumb yourself down, right? You tend to act dumber than you are, right? Less smart than you are, so you can make them feel good. But this inhibits your performance and it inhibits your own growth. Of course, we've all heard about FOMO, fear of missing out. And where does that come from again? Well, it's that anxiety again. It's that feeling like I need to get, try out that, am I missing out on that shiny new object? A lot of you have heard about Clubhouse, right? The last few months, and not knocking Clubhouse. I have an account on Clubhouse, but, we feel like if we're not on every social media platform, we're missing out. If we're not an early adopter, we're missing out. And you know what happens? What FOMO does, it also stifles you from starting because you feel like you're behind the 8 ball. You feel like I'm behind. What's the point? I'm not smart enough on LinkedIn. I'm not smart enough on Facebook. I'm not smart enough on Clubhouse. What's the point in starting? So fear of missing out. And then lack of focus. Lack of focus. This is a really big one, right? And, the acronym for focus, right, is, and this is not original to me, someone made this up. I found it somewhere. Follow one course until successful. Follow one course until successful. You may believe that you can be a multitasker. And I'll give an example. I used to tease Wayne that he was just a one-task guy, but I was able, maybe because I have spaghetti brain, I was able to do multiple things at the same time, right? That I was able to, just get my hands into different things. But the truth is, what I realized that when I got involved in all the different, projects and agendas, I was a jack of all trade, but master of none. So I really didn't have a top performance in anything. I was dabbling in everything. And so focus is going to be the key when we talk about the habits of a high performer. Focus is going to be a real key for you because, but as I mentioned, when you lack focus, you never execute. As a matter of fact, when you're thinking of all these limiting beliefs, you're never going to execute on your goals, your visions, your dream because of these limiting beliefs, right? So whatever the limiting belief or script is, the truth is this: it began in your mind. It is a way of thinking, mindset, right? It's why we talk about mindset. It's a mindset that you have adopted, and it's been so grooved in your mind and in your consciousness, it actually went down to your subconscious. So every decision that you've made is really based on this script, right? It becomes a habitual way of thinking. Your thoughts determine your actions, and your actions become your habits. And then your habits drive your outcomes, right? So if you're not happy with your current outcome, it stems back from that mindset, from your thoughts determining your actions, actions becoming your habits, habits driving your outcome. So in order to become a high performer, you must develop a high performance mindset. So I'm going to turn this part over to Wayne now, and we're going to talk about the 5 steps to develop a high performance mindset.
Thank you, Sharon. Well, step 1 in knowing how to develop a high performance mindset is developing a vision. You have to be pointed somewhere. You have to know where you're going. Now, the way to think of vision is as a picture of a preferred future. It's a picture of where you are trying to go. And that's really kind of the best definition that I've ever seen. A picture of a preferred future. Because if you don't have a vision, if you're not aiming at something, obviously you're not going to get anywhere. And so to develop that high performance mindset, you've got to start to think big picture. The Bible actually says, without vision, the people perish. And it's really just reinforcing that notion that without a vision, you're not going anywhere. You're really just going around in circles. And so we have to talk about how can we get a vision into our lives? How can we find a vision that we really want to commit to? Heart, soul, you're all in. It gives you purpose. It gives you direction. It gives you meaning and fulfillment in your life. And so there are many different kinds of visions. I think that's one of the problems too, right? Sharon talked about looking at other people. And sometimes we look at other people and we see their vision and then we're intimidated by that. But your vision could be a small vision. It could be a large vision. There are many different kinds of visions. In fact, let's talk about some of those, because in order to perform at your highest levels, you must be committed to something bigger than yourself. If it's all about you, you're only going to get so far. All of the greatest visions that have ever been accomplished, right, in all of human performance, it was always about something bigger than that one person. And so let's talk about some of these. For example, Martin Luther King, right? His vision was around the topic of justice or social justice. His vision was that all people would be treated equally, like they were created equally. Now, that's a huge vision if you think about it. In fact, he said, I have a dream, right? That was his vision. Mother Teresa had a vision, and her vision was to step from behind the walls of the monastery and deal with poor people in the streets and to bring them love and aid and assistance. That's a social justice vision. Some visions are based around wonder, right? Scientific discovery and wonder. Like, for example, Steve Jobs, he said that his vision was to put a dent in the universe. And we think of Steve Jobs and we think, well, Steve Jobs was a computer guy, right? And he built devices and computers and he designed them and he was a good designer and all of that. But really, when you think about it, if you hear Steve Jobs' own words, being a computer designer would be the last thing that he would say. What he said was he wanted to put a dent in the universe. He wanted the computers that he was designing to change the way we interact as families, the way we listen to music and art, the way we write, all of those things, right? And the Wright brothers, obviously, right, from right here in North Carolina where we're based, they wanted to see the vision come to life that man could actually take flight, right? And so those are visions around the topic of wonder. And then you have just aspirational visions, like, for example, Oprah Winfrey, who became just a mega and super successful, but she started out dirt poor. And even as a child, her own grandmother said to her, Oprah, look, I'm making a way for you to become a domestic worker like I am. And listen, I'm not knocking domestic workers. I respect domestic workers. But in her heart, even as a child, Oprah Winfrey felt like there was something greater there. We mentioned Steve Harvey, another person who's just one of the highest paid entertainers in the world right now, maybe in all time, one of the greatest entertainers, was homeless. And so your vision there's not a one size fits all vision. And your vision may start small. I'm sure when all of these people mentioned and other people that you could think of started out, they didn't start out where they are today or what they became famous for. They may have started with one kernel of an idea, but the big idea is that the step one of the process, right, of becoming a high performer and having a mindset and a mind of a high performer is that you must have a vision. That's where you're going to start. All right. So that's step one. But in order to develop that vision, for the vision to become real, you've got to have some goals, right? This is where the vision goes from your head and into action. That's where it goes from your head into reality. Because a vision without action is really just a fantasy, right? And I've met many people like that. I have a friend who I really respect and is a really good person, but they've just had this vision for this long time. And every time we get on the phone, I mean, for years, more than a decade, more than 10 years, maybe 15 years, I have this conversation with this person and we talk about the vision, but nothing ever gets done to accomplish this vision, you see? And so the vision just remains a fantasy or a dream that's in the head. It never becomes a reality. It's never like in the case of Martin Luther King, for example, where he takes the first march or he makes the first phone call, right? And so a vision without action is a fantasy. And similarly, action without a vision is just busy work. And we've seen people like that too as well, right? They're doing a lot of things. They certainly are busy. They're running around. But because there's no defined vision, it's really just busy work. So setting and achieving goals is how you bring your vision to life. So I'm just going to walk you through a very quick goal setting framework right now. And it begins with the first thing you should do is establish the categories for your goals. And what I mean by that is you have a life. I think when Sharon opened up, she said the way we do our coaching is 360 coaching. We coach in your business and in your life and also even spiritually, because you're not just a business person. You're not just a mom. You're not just a wife or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a husband. You're all these things, right? And so when you're doing your goals, you don't want to have too many categories. I typically put mine in about 5, but we just mentioned 3 here to give you a little start. For example, your business and career, that's one category of goals. Maybe you could develop a few goals in that area. Then in your relationships at work, your relationships with your family members, your relationships in your community, right? That's another bucket that you could put your goals in. And then your health, right? Your health is your wealth, right? Without your health, you have nothing. I remember Sharon and I went to see Damon John a couple of years ago, and that's the last thing he ended on. He hammered that point over and over. He kept saying, look, your health is your wealth. When you don't have your health, you want nothing else. And so put your goals into these different buckets, right? Then just decide on the number of goals in each category. I'm going to suggest that for starters, maybe it's 3 to 5, but you may have more and, run with it. But once you've established your categories, decide on the number of goals that you're going to place in each category. Then you're going to make them SMART. Now, some of you probably have heard this already. It may even sound a little cliche, but it really works. And so if something is working, we want to keep working it, right? And so SMART is just an acronym for when you make a goal, it should be, the S is specific, right? So for example, if you're going to make a fitness goal, don't make a goal that, I want to take off some weight. That is very unspecific. What you want to say is, I want to lose 10 pounds by July 31st. You see? And that gets to the next one, which is measurable. Your goal should always be measurable. It's not just, I'm going to take off some weight, because who can measure that, right? It's, I'm going to take off 10 pounds, right, by July 31st. Then the third is, it should be achievable. And what I mean by that is you don't want to make your goals so unachievable and so out there that you'll get discouraged by the goal yourself, right? Because it sounds good in the moment, but then when you get started, if it's too complicated and it's too out there, you're just not going to want to do it, right? Then the R is for, some people say real, some say relevant, right? And let me give you an example of what I mean by that. Sharon and I have a coaching business, right? And let's say we have 2 or 3 other assistants or employees that work with us. And let's say we were working out of a small office for, the small group of people who we work together with. And one of our employees came into my office and said, "Hey, Wayne, here's a great goal I have for the business. Let's put a swimming pool downstairs." Well, that is a goal, but is it relevant? Not at all. The swimming pool is totally irrelevant to our business. Is it realistic? No, it's not realistic at all. And so you want to make your goal realistic, in alignment with your business, in alignment with your values, in alignment with your vision, right? That's what the R means. And then finally, time bound, right? Getting back to the weight loss idea, it's X pounds by X date. You put a date on it so that you can actually track yourself and hold yourself accountable for your goals. And then the way you can expand on your goals, right, is to put them in 3 buckets. 1, modest goals, right? 2, stretch goals, and then audacious goals. So your modest goals are easy goals that you know you can do, or you're pretty confident that you can do, right? And then you can have a stretch level for your goals. So if you have a goal to lose 10 pounds, and let's say really you wanted to lose 20, then you could say, well, okay, my modest goal may be 10 pounds. I think I could do that by July 31st. But man, my stretch goal may be 15 by July 31st. And then maybe audacious would be doing the full 20, or 25, or maybe it's doing the 20 plus. You're also going to lift weights or something else that's going to help you to get in shape. So you combine it and you make it really audacious. You put it really way out there, because what I found is that when you put an audacious goal out there, a lot of times you'll shock yourself and you'll either hit the goal or you'll come close, shoot for the stars, you may hit the moon, right? And so that's step 2 of the high performance process. You with me so far? All right, we're going to have a vision and we're going to have goals. Sharon is going to take you now into step 3 about how we make those goals come alive.
Okay, great. Thanks, Wayne. And I know there's a question, and we'll address questions in the last 15 minutes. We're going to try to make this presentation be 45, and then we'll leave 15 minutes for questions. So hold your questions during the Q&A, and we will address that at the end. Okay, great. So step 3, so habits. So, we talk about the goals, right? And we talk about vision, right? So then how do you integrate goals and vision into your habits? Because again, you're here because you want to know what are the habits of a high performer, right? So what we have seen work and what we've heard from other high performers at work is we've got to begin to master our time. Master your time. So you have goals, you have a vision, but then what? Why don't more people execute on goals and visions? Well, because it requires discipline. So here is what we would call like a daily habit, right? Master your time, the power hour. And I'm sure this is not new to some of you guys, right? It's taking 1 hour every day. And honestly, so not everyone's a morning riser, but it truly is very effective in the morning. But if that doesn't work for you, then maybe last thing at night. But having a power hour, and what we suggest is to divide your power hour into 3 20-minute slots, right? 20 minutes, you read something inspirational. Now, we make no, bones about the fact that we're Christian. So for me, my first 20 minutes is going to involve me reading my Bible. But if you're not a Christian or whatever, read something inspirational. Right? You want that first thing in your mind, not to be Facebook or LinkedIn, right? You want it to be something inspirational. So I go, the Bible. And I'm not saying I do it perfectly every time, but that's the goal of a high performer, right? The second 20 minutes, you want to sit in quiet and maybe journal. If you're reading something inspiration, it is to get inspiration, is to be inspired. So from your reading, from your time in that inspirational word, what did you get? What did you glean? Journal that, right? And then the last 20 minutes, you have a couple of choices here. For those of you who are short in time, you can do a quick 20-minute brisk walk and visualize and affirm while you're walking. But for some of you who, require a longer exercise period, you could put that off until later and use the last 20 minutes to review your goals. Having written goals is great, but you have to look at them every day so that you are reminded of the promises you've made to yourself. All right, so that's part of the power hour. So now, training your mind. See, look, the brain is elastic, right? So you have to train your mind with new scripts. We call them, people call them affirmations, and some people like poo-poo affirmations. But listen, we talked about the scripts that were in your head, right? The procrastinating script, the I'm not good enough script, I'm not, pretty enough, I'm not enough. Well, those are mindsets. So in order to get rid of bad mindsets and bad scripting, we have to retrain our mind with good, affirm positive things. So we got to train our mind, right? We got to learn new things, right? Learn new things, read books, listen to podcasts that are, going to grow you, develop you. Our brains, neuroplasticity says, right? Our brains are happiest when we are learning, okay? Some of us are unhappy because we're not learning anything new. We're stuck, right? And anything that's not growing is dying. Okay, so train your mind, read, expand, affirm positive things, diet and exercise. Again, we know having a good diet, as Wayne mentioned, health is wealth, right? So check your diet, because a lot of times we're feeling lethargic. You cannot be a high performer if you're lethargic, right? So you got to get out there, as Tony Robbins says, right? Motion equates to your emotion, right? So if you're not moving your body, whatever, you're going to feel that slug. And I don't care if you're a man, woman, how old you are, we all get that slug, right? For me, before I got on this webinar today, I went out to the pond and I turned on Pandora and I was doing dancing. I was exercising. I was dancing to get my blood flowing so I could be able to present today. So you gotta do things to hack your brains, hack your habits, right? So take action on your goals. Goals are not just to be put on the shelf or on a piece of paper or on a vision board to just look at. You got to take an action. And, we like to say fail forward, right? So you may try something and it doesn't work, but guess what? You actually learned something in the process, right? If you are a consultant, your first client may not have been your greatest client, but maybe the next one will be better because you've learned from the mistakes of the first one. If you are a leader, maybe your first, mandate to the team didn't go so well, but guess what? You did it, right? So now you'll be a better communicator the next time. You got to take action on your goals. You got to fail while moving forward. We all hear the famous stories of Edison, right? People look at it as he failed 10,000 times, but for him, it was 10,000 opportunities to perfect the light bulb, right? So take action on your goals. Feed your spirit. Again, for me, I feed my spirit through prayers, through meditation, right? I feed my spirit, by having positive people around me, having positive speak in my life. Honestly, if I look at my phone and I see someone who I know tend to be more on the negative, calling me, and I'm not equipped already at that time to speak with someone who is negative, I don't take that phone call because I have to feed my spirit. I have to mind my own mindset, right? Because I want to be that high performer and people can pull you down. So feed your spirit. And it goes back to prioritizing relationships, right? So if one thing COVID has taught us is the value of relationships. When we realized that we weren't able to see our friends and family for over a year, we began to realize, oh my God, we really value these people. But when we had them, we didn't show that value, right? We didn't, honestly, we took it for granted. So prioritize relationships. And I tell you why this is important. For me as a businesswoman, I remember this just very clearly. I was a very busy bee, right? But I remember one of my kids getting ill. And when I had to deal with that, all my priorities at work meant nothing to me. because I had a loved one who wasn't well. And so the truth is, relationships are more important than money. It's more important than, honestly, than your rise in the company. It's more important than you being a great influencer. Relationships are golden. When your relationships are intact, if you're fighting with your spouse, you're not going to be a high performer. Okay. If your team hates you, you're not going to be a high performer, right? If your team doesn't want to follow you as a leader, you are not going to be a high performer. So prioritize relationships and increase your productivity. What do I mean by increasing your productivity? Well, be intentional about increasing your productivity. Say no to what doesn't serve you, right? Limit your commitment so that you can focus on the big items that only you can do, right? For some of you on this call, it may be time to delegate, to get a VA, to outsource the smaller task that keeps bogging you down, and to delegate that to someone who is more versed than you with that, so that you can increase your own productivity. For some of you who want to charge full price and more money, right? More for your services. Well, you're going to put it this way. If you tell yourself that I'm going to charge more money so that I can actually hire a VA so that I could serve my clients better, right? I can be a high performer. I can be a leader, right? In the areas that I'm called to serve, right? But you may need to be delegating the smaller stuff. So increase your productivity by looking at your business, see what the time stealers are, say no to the time stealers, get a VA to do those things so that you can be that high performer. So the fourth step is accountability. This is key. When you have accountability for your progress, it's a 10 times multiplier to achieving your goals. What do I mean by that? Right? Well, we can have all the plans in the world, right? But they're in my head, right? They're in my head, they're on a piece of paper. But really, who's checking me on it? Really, right? Accountability should be built into your high performance habit, right? It is the deciding factor or success or failure. Here are some ways to build it into your life. Well, you can recruit an accountability partner. This can be someone, a personal, a relationship, right? Or a professional connection. Now, where's my accountability partner and vice versa? Now it has its pluses and minuses, right? Because he's my husband of 34 years, right? If I feel like I don't want to do something, his love for me is going to supersede him being that real partner. But for the most part, though, if he knows I have a goal that I really want to accomplish, he'll encourage me to look, let's get this done. And I'll do the same for him. So a family member, can be a great accountability partner for you, or a professional connection that you trust, right? So, that's one way. Recruit a mentor. A mentor is someone who you respect, who, who's ahead of where you are, maybe walked the road before you, and you would like them to sow into your life. Now, the thing about mentorship, though, you got to remember that they're busy, they have a life, and they're successful, and you want a piece of their time. So with me, when I had a mentor, I met with my mentor 4 times a year, once per quarter, before COVID, where I bought lunch, I had an agenda, so I didn't waste their time. I even set the agenda ahead of time so we could have an effective meeting. So recruit a mentor. That's a way to keep you accountable. Share your goals and your vision and your plans with a mentor. You can join an accountability group. There are free groups on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. You can join a group, of people with like mind. And this may sound facetious. It is not meant to be facetious, but upgrade the company that you keep. And you all have heard this. If you're the smartest person in the room, then you are in the wrong room. Your room should comprise of people who are smarter than you and people who, yes, maybe less smart, so that you are looking to be mentored and you're also looking to mentor someone else. Because remember, we talk about the brain. When you are learning, your brain is happy, right? The act of you mentoring someone will actually expand you because you're giving. And I've always learned from my mentees, just as much as I learned from people who have mentored me. And so upgrade a company you keep and take advantage of professional opportunities. For those of you in the corporate space on this call, I remember years ago, Wynn and I were fortunate in our firm. God, this is probably going back 15 years ago, when one of our major clients sponsored us. Actually, two major clients sponsored us for an executive development program for a week. I went to Dartmouth for a week for an executive MBA, and they sent Wayne to Kellogg School of Business. That was fully paid for, thousands of dollars, but that was paid for by the clients. And these clients exist in every corporation. You just have to make the need known. When you are a high performer, you are always open for opportunities. It's like you're open for opportunities, right? So take advantage of professional opportunities within your company and also even within your client base. All right, Wayne, so I'm gonna turn over this last point over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sharon. And the fifth step in this process is reinforcement. You know, like we hear it as a military term, right? Send in the reinforcements, right? You need reinforcements to back it up, right? To back up all of those things. Because just to walk you back, you have a vision, but with your vision, you got to break it down into goals so that the goals will chunk down the vision. Then you've got to have habits in there, and habits are the vehicle to move that vision along. And then you've got to have accountability, someone who's looking over your shoulder, or a group, other people who are around you, who's pushing you and helping you when you get discouraged, which how many of you know that happens, right? It's like a daily thing, you get discouraged. And so you need that accountability to pick you up when you feel discouraged. And then to complete the circle, right? The fifth step is reinforcement, because this is going to go on for your entire life. You're not going to just be a high performer on one project and then on the next project you fall down, right? Because how you do anything is how you do everything. And so we want you to be in a high performance mindset for everything that you do. And the way that you do that from project to project, from month to month, from year to year, from decade to decade, how you really become a high performance thinker is through reinforcement. Without the reinforcement, right? No matter how good your habits are and how good the accountability you may have, if you don't reinforce it, if you don't keep it going, you're going to find you're going to end up in something called vision drift or mission drift. Your vision will either drift and you'll go off course, or it may even die. And so get some proper reinforcement, right? And in order to get it, we really believe that you've got to put some skin in the game. And what do I mean by that? Usually it involves an investment, because if you go back in this presentation and you look at the section we just came through on accountability, a lot of those things you could do for free. You know, a lot of people will serve as a mentor for you and will give you their time for free, right? You could go on Facebook and get into a group of like-minded people and get some mentorship there or some accountability there, right? You could get an accountability partner for free, right? As Sharon says, it could be a spouse, it could be a friend, it could be a professional person, right? Or a colleague. But when you want the reinforcement, because it is just so important to you that you achieve your goals, that it goes from a vision into reality, we suggest that you really put some skin in the game, put something in, put in an investment so that it will drive you to really prioritize your goals, right? And so here's some ways that you can do that. You could join a paid mastermind, right? Or a peer advisory group. And what we mean by mastermind, some of you have read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That's where the term was first used. And what the mastermind is a group of people who are working together towards a similar goal. And so you're in a room with a group of people for a period of time, and you really help each other to achieve a collective vision, right? And also an individual vision. So the group helps you to achieve your vision, then the group helps the other members to achieve their visions, and together you could also achieve a collective vision, right? But again, by joining that paid master group or a paid advisory group, you're a lot more likely to attend and really participate than if it's just a freebie. And so you could show up if you want to, and you don't show up if you don't want to. Another thing you could do is hire a one-on-one business coach, right? Now, some of you have gone to the gym on your own. Some of you have played a sport and you've just done it on your own for kicks. And some of you have done those things with a coach. And you know that there is a huge difference between you going out and saying, well, I'm going to run around the track a couple of times today. And then maybe, you may run a couple of times, maybe you do it once. But if you have a coach out there that's blowing the whistle, you're going to run both laps, right? And so that's the difference with a coach, right? That you may have some really lofty goals out there, some audacious goals that you're trying to reach. And look, you can probably do most of it on your own, but having that coach on board is just going to get you that extra percentage that high performers get. And then thirdly, you could join a group coaching program or a boot camp, right? Boot camps are great because it's a slice of time. So you're not doing it forever. Maybe it's a 8-week boot camp or 6-week or whatever the number of weeks is. But for that period of time, you're in a specific place, you're in with a specific group of people, and you have a specific agenda. And so for that 8-week period or for that period of time, whatever it is chop, chop, chop. And now you're going to be held accountable not only by whoever's leading the group, but also by the other people who are in the group with you. And a lot of synergy is created. A lot of partnerships are created. A lot of collaborations are created. And you know what? A lot of energy is created because that's what we need the most, really, is energy. Because there's this big bad monster called resistance that shows up every day to try and steal your energy. And so that's why we need reinforcement to keep that vision going so that it can become a reality. So in the next slide, we're going to talk about how do we put those 5 things together? How does it really all work together, right? So how do we put it together? Well, at the top of your slide, it says high performers succeed by following proven frameworks. We need a framework. That's just the way the human mind works. That's how we think. That's how we learn things, by frameworks. It's A, B, then C. It's 1, 2, then 3, right? And so you may say, well, Martin Luther King, he pursued his vision. I'm sure he wasn't looking at a chart like this, or Mother Teresa didn't look at a chart like this, or Bill Gates didn't, or whoever pops in your mind. Whether you have a chart like this or not, trust me, those people who did those big things, they were doing it unconsciously or subconsciously, right? But fortunately, you're on this webinar today, and so we put it all together for you. And so how does this work? Well, to develop a high-performance mindset, to get high-performance things done, right? You start with a vision. Then from the vision, your goals support your vision. You chunk the vision down into goals. Then your habits support you getting the goals accomplished. Then to get your habits and to keep them going, you have accountability. And then leaving from accountability, it's through reinforcement. Then when the vision is accomplished, you hit the bullseye of success of whatever that vision is. But guess what? Over your life, your vision is going to change. You may want to reframe it. It may grow. It may become something new. You may add partners and they expand the vision. So guess what? You add those partners and it begins again with your new partners or with the reframing or whatever that new vision is. You set goals again, and then you establish habits around those goals. You get accountability and reinforcement. And it is an unending circle of high performance. That's how you put it together in your life.
Great, Wayne. Thank you. So we're going to open up the Q&A box right now. And if you could take note of the chat box, we had placed at the top of the chat box links for Wayne's LinkedIn and for mine. Would love to connect with those of you who were not connected to at this point. And so if you could just go ahead and, send that, send us a connect request, we'd love that. And we're going to take your questions in a second. But we want to just talk to you about the reinforcement opportunities that we have. And as we mentioned before, we are business coaches. So we actually offer a one-on-one coaching program, right? So which helps you to gain clarity. This is primarily for people who are starting out in business or who are already in business, but they're kind of stuck, right? They're stuck. They need to go to that next level in their organization, in their company, whatever. And so they need clarity. They need to develop or revisit their vision, mission, and their values. We help with that. We help with the strategic growth planning. We help you with your marketing, your messaging, your branding. We really help to get you integrated with high performing habits so that you can be successful. And we help you too to establish proper boundaries for self-care. So that's our one-on-one program. Space is limited for that because we work with our clients for 3 months. 3 times a month we meet for an hour, and we really help you to, again, either launch or up level your current operations. And we mentioned finally a group program which we're launching, the Power Up Bootcamp within the next few weeks. Dates to be announced, but in the Power Up Bootcamp is really going to be 8 weeks, 6 individuals only, because we want it to be very effective. So it's a combination of, it's combining mastermind with group coaching. Okay, so we want you to be able to play ahead of where you are today. So if you're a high performer today, but maybe you're not so much of a high performer right now, we want to help you to begin to think and act like a high performer, and then begin to play ahead of where you are today. And that's a mindset thing. So whatever your goal is, we want you to start acting as if you have already accomplished those goals. It's an investment in your own personal growth. You're here because you obviously want to grow. It's an opportunity to embrace the changing you, because let's face it, the world has shifted, right? And you might have been a high performer in the pre-COVID world, but all of a sudden, you can't figure out yourself, right? You can't figure out what's happening. Why are you so lethargic? Why are you having all this inertia? Because the world shifted, but you didn't shift. You did not shift. So it's embracing change and, teaching you how to be flexible, creative, and proactive in this new normal. So I'm going to take some questions now. I have a question here from Ansar. He says, hi, I've had various visions, difficult to get across to people, and have faced adversity because of them. I have realized people cannot digest the truth that I give. Ansar, you're absolutely right. A vision, right, is your picture of your preferred future. Many times people will not understand your vision because it is your vision, okay? So wasting time trying to get them to come on board is a true waste of energy. If you believe that this vision came from, your inspired time with your higher power, then that's the call on your life. Don't waste time, and have difficulty anymore trying to get across to people. What you need to do is to execute on that vision, as we said. Set goals that will feed into your vision. Take action. Follow the steps that we outlaid here, and not waste another minute trying to convince people to see what it is impossible for them to see. The next question is from Rachel. Are there any tools that you suggest to help with habits? Mastering time. Mastering time is my big opportunity that I'm still trying to get the hang of. Wayne, let me give Wayne that one.
Yeah, one amazing tool is this. Get yourself, and I'm going to recommend the Stephen Covey planner. You can just look that up if you Google it, Stephen Covey planner. John Maxwell has one. There are different ones out there. But honestly, working with a planner to plan your goals into your schedule is one of the most powerful things you can do. Now, we don't have time on this webinar to go into that fully. But if you would connect with us on LinkedIn, or just follow up with us on LinkedIn, I'll give you some more tips where that's concerned. But that's one of the things that will really just radically change how you pursue your day, how you pursue your goals, and how you actually accomplish them, right? Working with a planner that helps you to actually plan the goals that you've pre-decided into your week. That's how you live out your goals.
Now, Joe asks two questions. I'm going to take one and you can take one. When Joe asks, can you go into more details about your personal morning routine? You mentioned reading something positive, which is one step in that routine. What other habits do you consistently do every morning to start the day? So Joe, like I said, I start with the reading. And then like I said, I mentioned, I journal and I meditate, but I am a morning walker. So for me personally, I have to get my body moving. So I go for a 10K walk every morning where I use that time to affirm loudly. I put my earphone in my ears and I pretend like I'm speaking to someone, but I'm really speaking to myself. And I affirm my goals for that day. I affirm my thoughts. I affirm what I'm expecting that day. I laugh. I do things to make my adrenaline come alive, to make my hormones happy, right? So I laugh, I affirm, I visualize while I'm walking. Then when I get back home, I have a breakfast, right? I'd have my breakfast, again, something healthy. I usually eat a bowl of oatmeal and I, drink my coffee. And that's how I started there. And let me be honest with you. Sometimes, guys, you have to repeat this throughout the day. Sometimes you may have a great morning start and then you get an afternoon lull. When I get that afternoon crash, I go back out for a walk again. Or if you are not able to go for a walk, if you're, stationary, put on some praise or some hip music, whatever, hip hop, whatever your fancy is. Move your body. Again, when I had the pleasure of going to a Tony Robbins concert, not really a concert, conference some time ago, and the entire time he had us moving, just kept moving. Every few hours we had to get up and move. That helps with keeping energy levels up. And your second question, Joe, is could you give us some tips on time management? How do you balance work, family, and friends?
Yeah, well, I'll jump in there, Joe, and I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Rachel. Send me a quick uh, connection on LinkedIn, and I'll go into more depth. But the one way to do it, and this is a really, really effective way, is to get one of those planners that I mentioned, the Kofi planner. And what you're going to do is you're going to write out goals in each of these areas. So in your work, you're going to write out 3 to 5 goals. In your family, you're going to write out 3 to 5 goals, or with your friends. Maybe it's in finance or in other areas, your spiritual life, whatever it may be, but whatever works for your life, you're going to have those buckets. Then you're going to write out 3 to 5 goals in each of those areas. Then we're going to take your planner and we are going to plan those goals into your weekly schedule. And you're going to shock yourself when you go through this exercise, because what you're going to find out is that you can actually plot your goals and you still have a lot of white space. What happens is we get into overwhelm when there's so many things coming at us, and particularly in the environment we live in today, where we're on social media and we do so much with our phones. There's so many notifications that are on. I mean, that's like a small thing you could do right now, just turn off some of those notifications, right? And also schedule, for example, email. Like, when are you going to look at email? Schedule a time. There could be a time in the morning where you have 30 minutes and that's it, where you just clean your email box and then you don't look at it again for another 4 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours or whatever. So there are a lot of strategies like that around your time. But one of the strongest things you can do to begin to manage your time, and it's interesting, I learned a lot of this from Stephen Covey, and he says there's no such thing as time management, really. It's really self-management. And one of the things that will help you to manage yourself is to get one of those planners and to write down your goals and categories and then begin to plot them into your daily schedule.
There's a question in the chat box. It's from Sean, and she said, what could you advise to overcome limiting beliefs? And she mentioned that sometimes when you're trying to do affirmations, right? When you're trying to replace those negative scripts, your brains will push back. Your mind will push back and say, nah, it's out of reach. It can't be done. And she was saying, it is recommended to continue to say those affirmations until they take root. So she was asked, what could you advise to overcome limiting beliefs? One of the things I always tell people, right, is to celebrate small wins. We talk about having goals in 3 categories. Set a goal, a small goal, and actually crush it. when you crush that small goal, when you crush that small, small goal, you have a win. That win reinforces that you are a winner, an achiever, and it gives you the confidence. You know what is confidence? Belief in yourself, right? Belief in yourself and in your abilities. So when you crush that goal, you celebrate that win, and you just keep making more goals and keep pushing back against that negative scripts. Remember, negative scripts have been lodged in our mindsets for years. Some of you are in your 40s, 30s, right? And the negative scripts was planted there by a trusted person in your childhood. You're talking about 20, 30, maybe 40 years in some cases of that belief system being reinforced subconsciously. So it's not going to go away overnight with a few affirmations. You have to affirm, take actions, like we said. It's not just affirming, it's taking action, setting goals, achieving the goals, and celebrating those wins.
Let me just jump in there. I would suggest you even take the wins part a step further. Get yourself a big 3-ring binder and start sticking pictures or just copies of your wins in that binder. Things that you won at, times when people praised you, times when you got the promotion, times when you won at whatever. Make a photocopy and put it in that binder and just keep adding to it. Over time, you're going to have a huge binder. And when you get attacked by the voice in your head that pushes back against your positive affirmations, you go back in and you open up that wins binder and you read it, and you hear all the people who wrote to you and thanked you for when you helped, when you see the time you got the promotion, when you see the time you wrote the big check, when you see the time that you went somewhere with your family on a great vacation and you enjoyed it. All of those positive things will feed your spirit and will push back against the negativity that we all face, because that's one thing that high performers know. There is resistance, and you're going to face that resistance every day. You face it in the business world, in the boardroom. You face it out there on the track. If you're an athlete, you're going to face resistance. So you have to have those tools that you can push back. And someone wrote in and said a binder works. Also a board or a wall. That's right.
Yeah.
If it's a board for you or a wall, you've got to catalog your wins.
Another thing too, I want you guys to understand that all high performers have moments of dips, right? What do I mean by dip? Mental dips, where you're pushing and you're feeling great, but out of nowhere, that negative emotion comes out of, it seems like nowhere. This is why it has to be a habit, right? You have to, Wayne and I call them hacks. Like, okay, why am I feeling a dip now? I'm at the top of my game. Why am I feeling a dip? It could just be an energy dip. Eat something, okay? It could be just a hormonal dip. Go move your body. It could be time to look at your wins board. It could be time to grab your affirmation card, but you have to push back at that dip. What that dip wants you to do is to curl up, to lay down, and to give up. But you have the power to still push back. And that's the reason why, being in a mastermind or in a group or, getting reinforcement, having a mentor is so important, because I don't think life was meant to be lived alone. And so I want to respect people's time. If there's any more questions, please put it now, because I want to respect your time for an hour. And I think we're about 3 minutes over that. As we said, we have the Power Up Bootcamp starting soon, limited to 6 people only. Please send us a DM on our LinkedIn page, or you could go to our website at SharonGill.com. And right beneath the video of me speaking is a button that says book a clarity call. We can get on a telephone call to discuss if we're a good fit for you or not. I just put my website information in the chat box. Let us have a conversation. Let's see, where you're at, and let's see if we're a good fit for either one-on-one coaching or if we are a good fit for the boot camp. But as Wayne said, at some point you have to step back and say, I deserve this. I value myself. Okay. And, I want to be valued, but first I value my own self. and I want to invest in me because I believe in me. That's what I had to do when I hired my first coach. I resisted it for a long time, but then I realized that I valued myself and I wanted to make this investment. So I really thank you guys for being here. And if there's no other questions, we're just going to end our webinar, but we really enjoyed having you here and we look forward to connecting with you guys on LinkedIn. Any closing words, Wayne?
No, take care, friends. It's been a blast.
All right. Take care.